I love my friends, right? But at the same time, I love a lot of things. I love my parents. I love video games. I love writing. I love, I don't know, um, tofu. I love a lot of things. But we're using one word, love, for so many different things. What does love mean, right? So first, we have to make a distinction. I think it's a flaw with the English language first and foremost, right? I think the ancient Greek has a much better, uh, has much better descriptors for, I think what we try to convey when we say, uh, love, right? So they have four, to be specific. They have agape, eros, philia, and storge. Storge, I don't know, but the point. Oh, so storge is familial love. Okay, that's a love for your parents, for your sister, whatever. That's the love that you get from uh, them, family, right? Familial. Philia is friendship. That's love that you have for your friends, and so on and so forth, right? So we're left with two, right? And then your love for like video games or tofu or whatever. That's an enjoyment. That we're using love to signal that you gain enjoyment from that thing, right? But that's not really love. It's a misnomer, I think, and it's a flaw of the English language that we have to use the word love to describe so many different things, right? So ultimately, the love that I'm trying to get at today, the love that you have towards a girlfriend or a wife or whatever, right? Um, that's what I'm trying to get at here. So we're left with two words, right? We're left with agape and eros. So agape is unconditional love, right? And we want to say that love is unconditional. Like, yeah, I love you no matter what, right? That's not true. Okay. Number one, you have the thing of like, if I were to turn into a worm tomorrow, would you still love me, right? I think to some extent, people would still love their significant other. I think a lot of times you would like, I don't know, put them in like a planetarium or something and like, raise them until they die, right? Or, but the one catch to unconditional love is if your girlfriend turned into a dude tomorrow, would you still love her, right? If you could answer me that question, the answer would most likely be no. You wouldn't love them. Uh, and I think that you would still say friends, but it would just wouldn't be that same type of love that we're talking about, right? It would turn into philia and less so eros, which is what I'm getting at here. So eros is erotic love, right? It's the passion, like like what you see in Hollywood movies, right? It's like that burning desire, for somebody, and in a lot of ways, that's the best way we can really describe love, right? It's a passion that you feel towards somebody, that that motivates you to form a deeper connection with them. And in the words of my friend Jalen, it's when you like someone so much that you start to love them. Okay, truly an intellectual of all time. Okay, but regardless, the point is that eroge is the best, or sorry, not eroge, eros, erotic love is the best nomenclature, I guess you could say, for what we define as love, right? So in a lot of ways, erotic love seems like there seems to be there's more to love than just erotic love, right? Like your love for your significant other or whatever really goes beyond just you finding them attractive, right? Like sure you might think they're cute, but it's so much more than that, right? You enjoy having a conversation with them, you love their company, and you would do anything for them, right? Or you would go out of your way to do stuff for them, right? Is usually what I hear. So, I think the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy is a much better definition for love as we know it, right? So there's three. There's love as a union, love as a robust concern, and love as valuing. And I want to group all three just to talk about it, like quickly, because in a lot of ways, I think a lot of these, uh, all have an underlying, have all have an underlying thing about them, right? So love is a union. This one is probably the least controversial one because you're literally just saying, I love this person and I want to stay with them. Maybe forever, maybe for a month, a week, a year, but I want to stay with them and I want to have a union with them, right? And I think this is by far the most standard definition of love. But there's also the other two. So we have love as a robust concern and love as valuing. So as a robust concern, you love somebody to the point where if they were to die or something, right? You would or if they were to get hurt, you'd generally be concerned about them, and you love, and this concerns more than you would have for a normal friend. So to my friends, at least, if I were to die, I think they would be sad, but I don't. Ultimately, I think they would get over it pretty fast and they'd move on with their lives, right? But if their significant other would die, I think it'd take a much bigger toll on them, right? So there's that. There's that robust concern element, and then you have love as. By the way, this encyclopedia goes into a lot more depth. I'm giving like a TLDR of TLDRs, okay? And then you have love as valuing. So you have appraisal value and bestowal value. So two subsections of this, right? You're either appraising someone's value uh, by saying you love them. You're saying you're worth this much to me, right? You're appraising them. Or you're bestowing value, right? You're saying you're giving them this person this value, and that is love, right? So we end up with that. So I think the problem there is all three of those. The underlying factor to all of them, I guess you could say, is that there's always the almost primeval sexual attraction to them, right? All of these basically necessitate some level of sexual attraction towards that person. You don't you form a union with a lot of people in your life, but this special union for you is because you find them attractive first and foremost, right? Um, the robust concern also, the first chain in a line of chains is this sexual attraction towards them, and the same thing for the value, right? They wouldn't be worth as much if they weren't attractive to you, right? And I think that's where it starts and ends. So then you might ask, is love just this biological instinct, this sexual attraction that we have for somebody, and is it just a method of reproduction, and is that how humans have stayed in the gene pool, or is that how we win the evolutionary game, right? Love, and to some extent, I would say, yeah. I think really love, really is just that, right? It's this this instinct that we have to reproduce, right? You find this girl cute in your geometry class or whatever, and you're like, okay, um, I want to get to know her better, and maybe you form a really deep bond, right? And ultimately, the relationship, the most important thing in the relationship is that deep bond. But what is the first? Why does that deep bond exist in the first place? Because there was that initial sexual attraction, right? And I know it's weird to say it, but I think relationships begin and end there. You need a form of sexual attraction to form a relationship. And I think really love just ultimately boils down to that sexual relationship, right? So now we have there. So are you saying, so you might be saying, Stanley, are you saying that love is just this desire to smash or whatever, right? And to some extent, I think, I think I think what we understand as love is a lot deeper than just this primeval instinct to reproduce. But I think it's still this plays a large part in this, right? Because fundamentally speaking, the reason why you love somebody is because you find them attractive, right? And if you didn't find them attractive, you wouldn't love them. Uh, and whether that attractive is just because they're hot or because they have a uh, body part of the opposite sex, or yeah, uh, that is still very important, right? And really, like, I guess no matter how you spin it, there's always that underlying thing of that need for sexual attraction, right? So ultimately, we end up with at the question of, is love just like is love just a biological like process that my brain goes through to continue the survival of the human race? And I think you could interpret it as such, right? And I think in a large degree it is, because again, you don't love somebody that I'm dead, by the way. You don't love somebody that you just think is a cool guy. Like you have bonds with a lot of people, but why is this specific bond worth deepening? Because you want to hit, right? And I think it ultimately starts and ends with that. Um, yeah, yeah. So I think this conversation can go in a lot of different ways, but I think ultimately what it comes down to is love is just this instinct, is almost feral, primal instinct of ours to mate, and this manifests itself in deep in relationships. But okay, there's also the rebuttal that a lot of people love people without wanting to reproduce. Like not every loving couple wants to have kids, right? But I think that's a result of society and in nature, uh, in the state of nature, right? As Locke would call it. I don't think this would exist. I think people don't have kids because of a lot of different societal reasons, right? Like maybe it's economic, maybe it's social. It could be a million different things, but but you still ultimately want to hit, right? You're never gonna be in a relationship where you don't want it, where you don't want to hit, and I think it starts and ends up there. Maybe you don't want to have kids because there are all these outside factors telling you not to have kids, right? Maybe you're like 19 and you're like kids and right like don't have kids obviously, but there's still always going to be this want to hit, and ultimately, what is sex but uh, a way of reproduction, right? So now, so now that still brings up the question like a lot of people will still be in relationships without wanting to hit, but like again, you like sorry, a lot of people will still be in relationships without wanting to have kids, but still there's this want to engage in this act, and um and the fundamental like part of relationship, the difference between a relationship and a friend on face value, other than how deep the relationship is this thing that you guys do together, right? Is you obviously don't hit with your friends, right? And I think it ultimately just comes down to that, right? Like there's a million different things you can say, but uh, sure you might want a quality relationship with somebody, but why can't that quality relationship be with a friend? Because there's intimate there's because relationship only can get so deep and so intimate if there's this aspect to it, and this aspect to it is ultimately just a primal way for us to reproduce, right? That's what I'm getting at. So what is love? A way that our that human evolution tricks us to force us to reproduce. Yeah, that is very sad and very cynical and very pessimistic, but I think that's the answer I've arrived at. Yeah.